So, like I said, we're going to keep it super casual. But the first thing that I wanted to kind of start off with is I'm a huge podcast fan, and I have been binging the $6 billion gold scam by BBC and CBC. If you haven't listened, I highly recommend it. Have you guys listened to it at all?
I'm only an episode in or so I need to listen to the rest. It keeps getting away with me. Although I've convinced several people at this moment that are like not tied to the mining space to listen to it, which is good, including my wife, who normally balks at it and stuff. So that's good.
I love it. Alessandra, have you checked it out, listened to it?
Not fully, just for a few minutes.
I had a long drive the other day and just totally binged it. So I mean, not that there's any spoilers, we all know what happens, but it does cover the Bre-X scandal and how it shook the mining industry. And it kind of got me thinking about, I wasn't alive during that time, but it got me thinking about technical reporting and how it's changed. And of course, at Prospector, how that's, brought us to be. So I thought it might be a fun topic to talk about, like all this technical reporting and mining data. And we even have a sneak peek from John of how AI and technology is changing the game at the end. So I'm super excited about that. Like I said, as always, feel free to drop any questions or insights in the comments section. But first, I want to stir the pot a little bit because I know, John, you have some strong feelings on this, and I love it. Technical reports. What are they? Which ones do you prefer? Because we have the 43101, the SK1300, and JORC. I think there's a couple others out there. What are the differences? And then which ones do you two prefer and why? You first. Okay. I queued this one just up for you.
From a report standpoint, just from a purely, if I'm just talking about a report, I think the 43101 is organized like really well. And maybe it's just because it's the kind of the first one I got introduced to, so it's very familiar. And so, when you see a JORC technical report, it's a little more, it's not as standard, right? And it's also, they're not kind of being consistently tagged like the 431s are from the exchange. And the kind of similar situation goes with the SK 1300 in New York. Although what I will say I do like a lot about the JORC is when you get into press releases. So, we've started to pick up our coverage of sort of earlier stage projects and their drilling results that come out in press releases. And because of the way the 43101 standard works, it's more of a reports standard, whereas the JORC is more of a reporting standard. Not that the 43101 is not a reporting standard, but you see that updates, particularly drilling updates, they come with a lot more detail when they come from Australian companies because of the JORC, right? Because you need to give details on location. If you're pulling assay results, you have to technically you're supposed to share all of your assay results. You got to put that little JORC table in the back, right? That's got all the details on what's going on. So you just get a lot more detail for sort of like more minor announcements than you otherwise would. Than you often see from like a Canadian company. So and for us, sometimes that makes it difficult when we're trying to track new discoveries and things, and there's no like, where is this? Can we put this on a map somewhere? And sometimes it requires actually going to a one of the geo surveys in Canada or somewhere else and finding the tenement and looking it up because it's not in the press release about exactly where it is. So there's those things like that, but obviously standard's really important, but there's give and goes between the two.
Awesome. Alessandra, how about from your standpoint? Do you have a preference?
I don't have a strong feelings about any of our board, either the JORC or the 43101. I agree with John that the 43101 or the SK300 are mostly the same in the sense that they have a particular structure that they need to follow and data that is required to be in there. However, they are more narrowed into Canada or the US standards. However, the JORC is more widely used between other countries. So you can find the JORC used in Australia, South Africa, in parts of Europe, Asia. So it's more broad the spectrum. So if you are familiarized with how the JORC works, it's easy to change between one jurisdiction to the other one. However, the JORC the fact that it does not have all the structure sometimes you're not going to find the same data if in or the same order. So if you're going to look at various technical reports, sometimes you get it harder to identify the data that you need to extract if they are not following the same structure, one report compared to the other one. So if I put in the financial investor perspective, I think that my ideal report will be a combination of both in that sense, because the 43101, or especially the SK 300, is more detailed into the economics. It's more specific. You can find more data in that about the economics. However, in the York, you have a risk assessment that is something that is not necessarily mandatory or part of the report. So I'll think that a combination of both in the economic side, that will be the ideal report.
There we go. Squish them both together. Thank you both for outlining those pros and cons. I love to hear it. And it's so interesting to me to see like how the different reports are handled and stuff. So on the basis of technical reports and rewinding a little bit here, I wanted to talk about how these kind of started the idea for Prospector and how we interact with the data and the information that is in these different technical reports. So I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on the importance of the accessibility and transparency of industry data, not just for investors, but also for like other companies, industry suppliers, et cetera, and where Prospector comes in. John, you want to kick us
Yeah, I mean,
off with
I
that?
think that, yeah. So when we first started Prospector, it was about taking all the 43101s. That was our focus. We weren't looking at JORC. We weren't looking the SK 1300. I don't even think it just come out yet. So the idea was we just want to make these searchable, right? You could go to CDAR and you could download if you knew the company or if you knew the name, but it was very difficult to find. And so the idea was, okay, well, we're gonna get all the documents. We license them from the exchange. It should be said, right? We pay the TXX and we do also pay the ASX for the ability to do so, and luckily the New York Stock Exchange is a free and open access exchange when it comes to filing, so we don't have to do that there. But the whole concept was, okay, first let's get them in one place. Let's take the text off them and put them in a way where you could just do an open text search through the documents. And then let's start identifying which projects are tagged to which, so we can look at changes of a project over time, what minerals are discussed, what deposit models, where is it located, stages, all the resource levels, those things. And then that over time evolved into us taking more broadly, like all filings across all exchanges that we track, that being London, New York, Johannesburg, ASX and TSX and CSE, and AIM. Sorry, I probably missed one in there. And then to track more broadly what companies are doing across those different exchanges, so we can kind of get better insight in what's going on. And if you look on any given day, if you're following junior mining, sometimes there could be as much as 5,000 different filings in a day. That's a lot for one person to look at. And so our thought is, how do we make it so that you are stable to be aware of that information without having to fully consume all that information? And how can we use different techniques in AI as well as the data extraction we do to make that more easily possible? Because it's really impossible for a single human to manage and track all that.
Absolutely. And Alessandra, I know you have a background, like you're head of data, but you also have a background in finance. So what's your perspective on this accessibility and transparency of data here?
I think that my perspective why Prospector wasn't founded many years ago, because I definitely would have used it. I have worked for more than 10 years for big mining companies that acquires or merge or do this type of investment transaction with our companies or acquire projects, and definitely having one place with all the data and everything is standardized. Because I think that the most important thing if you're looking for to acquire a project or a company is to be able to compare the data, and that's something that you cannot do if you have to enter to each technical report that is going to be in different formats. You're going to find some good information you're going to find some good information on Edgar or in Cedar or other exchanges. However, being able to find this in just one place, just looking specifically to the project that you need, that's something that you can do on Prospector. You can just filter out the projects by the region, if you're interested in a definite or particular jurisdiction or commodities, and find all the information of all the projects in one place and standardize. That's definitely a huge advantage. That's something that should have been on the market before.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, I just was showing off a little bit of what Prospector is in case you haven't seen it yet. There's going to be some changes coming to the interface that I'm super excited about that John's going to show us a little teeny tiny sneak peek of here in just a second. But yeah, one thing that I really like coming into this, I worked in a production mine, but coming into this kind of investment, kind of project development, mineral exploration space is the filtering. That's my favorite part. That's what I use the most. I'm able to search by any sort of mineral I want. Obviously, gold is the most popular. Boom. And I can see all of the producing gold mines that are publicly traded pretty much in the world. And John and Alessandra have worked really hard to now have over 12,000 projects listed in our database, which is quite a lot. So congratulations, guys. And thank you for both of your hard work on that, because I know it was a lot. So speaking of all of this and why wasn't it founded earlier and all of this, technology and AI are changing the game. They're hot buzzwords that we hear all the time throughout the mining industry. They're coming in so many different uses. So how do you see what's changed even within like the last couple of years? Because I know like ChatGPT has come online, we have Claude, now we have all of this like AI explosion. So how is AI and technology changing kind of how we look at this technical reporting and data?
It's an augmenting tool, right? We use it. We have some very specific processes that are, if you can imagine, you could create a whole thread for an individual document on ChatGPT. Imagine just loading the document in and asking specific questions and getting that information out. And we do something similar to that, but at scale, in structuring that information that comes out. And what that means is that our analysts transition their activity. And so the activity moves away from going to a filing and pulling the information out to looking what the AI has recommended be pulled out and then validating that. And if you think of that task, just imagine opening a document. So if I told you right now, okay, Jess, take this PEA. I want you to get me the CapEx, OpEx. I want you to get me the resources and reserves. I want you to find it in the document, and then I want you to put it in into this little web form that I have. That activity, right, normally takes a human being, right, and we've worked on different ways to improve our analysts' ability to do this, can take, upwards of an hour, depending on the technical report, maybe 2 hours. We structure specific analyses that allow us to have the AI do that recommendation in a little under, depending on how big the report is, something like 2 to 3 minutes. And so it's available for the analyst to look at. When the analyst looks at that, they can then just move to a validation point. They don't got to find the page that it's on. These are 600 and 700 page documents sometimes. They can kind of go into a validation mode. They can look and see what's there, as opposed to doing this full search. And it actually takes that collection time sometimes down from something that's 1 or 2 hours down to maybe a 15 or 20-minute task. And if you compress that over the ability to cover lots and lots of technical reports, that means a lot of savings. And we've shifted not only from doing that for life of mine plans, but also for starting for resources and reserves in production. Now this is how we collect, right? We create different tools to recommend, and we try not to have our analysts start with nothing. We're trying to say, okay, at least tell them where the page is, tell them what the AI thought it was. We don't automate this, we still validate it, but it's human-centered AI. And that's our philosophy, is how can we use these AI tools, because they become a lot more sophisticated, to aid in the collection process and how we curate these data sets.
I think that's such an important point, is that human-centered part, right? Because especially like you hear tech companies, and John, you've said it a lot, garbage in, garbage out, right? So bringing that human-centered in for validation is so key when we're talking about this technical data. And Alessandra, being the head of data, what does this mean for you and your team, this leveraging this AI?
Definitely, it simplifies things. If we are talking to someone that tries to get all the data, as much data as we can, and process it, definitely having the help of the AI to classify and identify the data as the first step definitely is a huge advance, because that will take a lot of time from each of the analysts just to find and identify the data by themselves, rather than just validating that everything is correct and everything is standardized. So definitely is a really big step. Something that I think that technology has changed is the expectations of the users. We're used to just finding the data, go to the reports, go to different sources, identify what we need and extract it by ourselves. But now, with AI, we are just expecting to have everything digested, everything simple, everything tabular, everything in just a few seconds. And definitely that's a huge advantage of having AI in our side to help us with those tasks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. No, I think it just blows my mind about how fast our team is able to process technical reports. Like I was just showing, there's like each technical report's like a 300-page document. And so leveraging that AI to cut that time down it's mind blowing to me. So again, like just thank you both for all that you do on that side, because it's really amazing. So John, do you want to give us a little sneak peek of what we have coming up? This is something I'm really excited about, and I can't wait. I appreciate you putting this together for us.
Okay. So I'll preface to say, right, we're not going to entirely move away um, from the what you see now, and actually the existing Prospector is the backbone to everything. But what we're starting to build out and put in place is, if you can imagine ChatGPT, but then imagine you have all of our mining data and all the filing data sitting behind it, and be able to return and provide links and questions and allow you to get more in depth with the documents. That's what we're focusing on, right? We call this Open Mine AI. And this page is we're moving towards something that looks like this when you come into Prospector, maybe a little snazzier. You can come and ask a question. You can set the context, right? So the idea being, hey, I just want to chat with all the documents that talk about a particular stage in a particular country that have been filed over certain days, have intercepts, and are with this metal, right? That's the idea that we're working towards. I'm gonna reset
While
this.
you're filtering here, John, so we're talking about like how is this already just different from ChatGPT? Like, why can't people just
Yeah.
go into ChatGPT right now and do
So
this?
if you go into ChatGPT, you have some access to the internet. You need to know some pretty well. You could download filings from us and upload each one. But what we've set up is such that, let's say I click here. This is a quick start. It's just a quick prompt. And this is going to go through all the drill results that have recently come out. And it's actually going to give us some highlights on them, on what's happening. It brings back to the actual Prospector link, the document. Now, if you do this question inside of ChatGPT, and maybe Jess, this is something we can do when I'm better prepared next time to do so, is we can actually compare and contrast the two. Is ChatGPT won't know what has happened from a drilling activity standpoint across all assets that we track. It won't have a good link to a document. It won't be able to kind of interact. It can get some information if I bring it to it, if I give it some details, but it's not going to do that on its own. And then, so the idea here is if I click on this, I can actually open and I can see the specific filings as it's responding. So let's bring this back into Prospector. But this is still a lot of information. I don't know if I want to read all this. So let's say, tell me more about Valeriano project. And since it knows all this information, it can come back and give us much more robust information and start getting into details, or if there's been any major updates to the project, any future plans, statements from the CEO, a table of summary of the recent highlight intercepts from the document. And then finally, it's going to tell me where I can find it on Prospector. And I can go see Oops. Let's ask it again. Where can I find more details about the project? He gave me the filing, but we can actually prompt it to give us the actual project itself. So this way, you don't have to look for buttons. You're not going to be looking for things. You can actually just chat and look for projects, right? And ask questions about it. And it's going to be smart enough to have that access and information, guide you into Prospector where you like. It looks like there's an earn-in option on this one by ATX Resources. There's a former technical report resource from 2022. Look at the golds. If I wanted to, I could go look at this technical report as well. So looks like what there was done for their, well, one of their resources that came out. So yeah, so the idea is just kind of tying all the Prospector stuff together into this sort of more simplified chat base. So you can interact with things and get citations, feel more confident, and take a look at the details. And, if I wanted to, we can fall into another project. Tell me about Mermac. Right? And it's got the context to know and look and find the details about the project.
This is amazing, especially with how many people are like now getting used to ChatGPT. Like a year ago, I'd have been like, this may not be like super intuitive, but like this ability to just go in, like ask questions, like just tell me all the recent job results, what's happening in the world, I think is so amazing.
Yeah. So we're still refining some things. The idea is that you can ask any production question, exploration question, M&A question you like. We'll be bringing in the financials, so you can ask questions about the cash positions of the companies that own the projects. And look at this one here. Actually, sometimes it'll pull out images when available inside the reports. So this is one that came from the Mermac property. It's kind of cool. So
that was so cool. I loved yesterday when we were kind of playing around with it that it pulled up the drill maps that were from the report.
Yeah,
I think that's so handy.
So we're working on consistency there, so that happens across the board. That'll be another part of it as well. So if you ask, okay, show me all the cross-section images or show me all the drill holes or tenement maps from this project, the idea is that the chatbot will be able to respond with that as well, to kind of bring it into one place. And it'll save you'll keep a history of your stuff, so you can always come back. Whereas I think I had one earlier. Let's see, yesterday. I think this is the one that we were looking at, right, Jess? Yeah. So this is the one. Yeah. So you can always go back to it and see what information you were looking at. This is an example of how it recognized a cross section and knew that was important, that I might want to see it.
Yeah.
And it's actually.
No, this is.
Oh yeah, and it comes right from. You can see the document if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I think that's like a really important part. Again, that kind of sets this apart from just like regular old ChatGPT. It's all cited from within our database. Like, exactly where all this information is coming from. It's updated, often. And it's not just like some random void in the internet. It's not some black box. You can go see where all of that data is coming from, right?
Yeah. Let's see if there's any mergers and acquisitions.
So while this is thinking, I hope everybody's as excited about this as I am. But when might people be able to start maybe trying to sign up for the beta? I know this is still in the works, but do you have an idea?
Yeah, so I think, August, September is what we're looking at now. We want to do some beta testing through later July, early August, and we really want to try to get things out there sometime in September. So anyone who's interested, just reach out and let us know. We'll set you up, and definitely looking ways to get feedback, different ways in which we can bring more information in. So
awesome. And this is the M&A. It's really small on my screen.
Yeah, it didn't pull a ton back. It's right now we've been focusing a lot on the drill stuff, so I have to bring in some of the M&A filings. But sometimes they tuck M&A information inside of the drill results that we track. So. But yeah, this is where we're heading. Excited about it. Looking forward to feedback, seeing how people play with it, and hopefully we can get it out in the wild here in the next 3 to 6 weeks.
So exciting, Alessandra. Do you have any insights or thoughts coming from your financial and data background on how this might help our users?
Yeah, I think that definitely is going to help our users a lot. I have been in the past, I have been given the task to compare our project with other projects from other companies, especially to decide if we are going to do, if a company I was working for was going to do an M&A transaction. So being able to see what is the value of the project with similar characteristics and just searching on the computer on the bot in a few seconds to have all the data that I'll need definitely is a huge advantage. And the fact that it can also be based on information about resource and research, so you can ask anything about it. You can go from first starting to ask about the M&A transaction to ask about the specific information about the projects that have similar characteristics or projects owned by the company. I think that being able to search for all this or drive between all this information at the same time and as I wanted to, that's definitely an advantage. And if I put of a position of someone that is dedicated as or someone like an equity investor or a project owner, definitely is a huge advantage to have this as a tool.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat yet. So this is your time to drop them in. As we're kind of waiting to see if anybody has any questions or comments or insights or things that they would like to see Prospector do either of you have any final thoughts or insights or things you're doing this summer?
Well, I think the other thing, right, that we're planning to also sneak peek here, maybe this is something we do next roundup, is we've been doing a lot of work with assay results and using AI to extract it out. And so we think that come maybe late July, early August will be something else we can show and everyone where, you can essentially do a filter for every copper project that reported an assay result that was over 50 meters and over 0.5% grade, right? We've been working on doing that and making it reliable and validating what the AI is doing. So we're looking forward to putting that out as well later this summer. So we've been doing a lot of work with drill results lately, and AI has made that much more possible than it was even 6 months, 12 months ago.
It's so crazy how fast it advances, for sure. And if you want to, we have a lot of exciting stuff, not just these new updates. We just have a lot of new exciting news coming out soon. So of course, always follow us on our different social media platforms, and I'll be updating you on there as these different things come out. Alessandra, how about you? Any final thoughts, insights, fun plans for the summer?
No, just telling all the people is that, yes, follow up with Prospector. We are always thinking about the investor or the owners that are trying to give you solutions to make things faster, not have to deal or drill with between a lot of information that you're going to find from different sources. So you're going to have everything together and we are trying to make things simpler as much as we can.
Love that. Thank you. Well, I think with that, we are actually a minute over our time here. So again, to sign up for this chatbot beta, if you're interested in it, please send me an email, or you can just sign up for our email list by signing up through the Nugget. We'll be announcing it in there. We'll be announcing on social media when that's ready. I'm super stoked about it. And as always, if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, or anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me, John, or Alessandra. You can send me a LinkedIn message or email any of us. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and say goodbye.